I think that my underlying issues with this is simply, you know, I can flip on the channel. I have a lot of Vermont stations, and Casella's all over me doing great things in that state, doing great things for the towns. The former board, the former people that have sat here have always shouted, well, let's just close them down and we'll move the stuff to Carberry. So, you know, I'm sitting here saying to myself, it was these people, they just want to close. And that's my mindset. They're not looking at this. We are not saying, we want to sit down with them. So let's sit down with them. We don't need to spend all this extra money to sit down with them and bring them to the table, because you know what? If the board would vote to do that, they would come to the table and there'd be no need for this House bill. And that's what I'm trying to say. If the previous boards have already said, well, we'll just send it to Carberry, they obviously have done their research that, well, Carberry will take it. So when you sit there and you say no other town will take it, I find that a little bit leery. And it's the people that, furthermore, I don't believe our stuff should go to Carberry. I think we're being hypocrites by sending it there. We all make trash. So, you know, that's a whole other issue. But
I'd like to remind you guys that, you know, way before you guys went to town, there was a host community agreement in place, and they reneged on the host community agreement.
That was a legal agreement before they bought the landfill.
And I'd also like to remind you, you guys ran on saving the taxpayers some money here, and here we have an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think we have an opportunity to make more by just bringing it to the table.
I don't know how you know that.
I was here, why don't you let that speak?
I don't understand how you guys can think that. Explain that.
Dan, I read right here.
One at a time, please.
We haven't been able to do it for 20 years, and here we have the chance to have the state help us out, and you guys are balking on it. So are you advocates for the taxpayer, or who are you advocates?
Of course we are, Dan.
Well,
Don't make that accusation.
Well, I'm not making an accusation, I'm asking a
One at a
question.
time, please. Let Derek finish.
But he asked me a question.
Let's advocate for the taxpayer here, and show these people some respect. To me, it sounds like you're worried about everything but the taxpayer.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm serious.
When you sit here and says further...
They're worried about their Casella salaries.
That's not correct.
Correct.
And I will respond to
I
that.
have something to ask, please.
So let's move on.
Very valid question.
You're not.
Oh, please.
I love you.
Mark, not right now, please. Harold's the only one that had his hand up and asked if he could ask a question. So let's see that you Thank you.
My question is, Chairman, you used an expression twice, the condition of this board. I'd like to have an explanation of that.
Yeah.
You want to get an explanation of
Yeah,
that?
I'd like to have an explanation.
All right, Harold. The explanation of that is that the day before we were sworn in, a new select board member was appointed. Okay? That breaks from tradition of what usually went on.
Was it legal?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I think at the beginning of the end.
Was it ethical?
Well, how far back did you guys go on?
Was it ethical?
There's nothing ethical in politics.
Just go back 6 months.
But I would urge you that if the legislature wants to give you the opportunity to have a stronger hand when you sit down at the table, you ought to take it. And they are looking at the bigger policy issues across the state. I understand the Carberry issue. I lived in Rochester. I understand tax and landfills. Their issues are not with Bethlehem. Their issues are, as a matter of public policy, how do we want to figure out a way in which we can cite additional capacity in the state? Because today, in a state with 5.5 million acres, this 50-acre piece over here is turn the legislature upside down. There's, 10 or 12 people lobbying on the other side. You've got me working on behalf of the town. And I would argue that if it has gotten to the point where this 50 acres is more important than any other piece of land in the state of New Hampshire, then the policy behind it that has gotten the state to this point where this town has to be torn apart over this landfill, there's something wrong, and the policy had to be fixed. And I think they looked at it and they came to the same conclusion that I just came to, which is, let's figure out how you fix your problem, and let's figure out how the next community that gets to be the host of a private landfill has the opportunity to represent people when it's sitting across the table for them in the strongest possible manner. And I think that's what we're all trying to accomplish, not work against you, but try to help you get through this in a way in which you don't have a town that has had all the issues that you've had with this. Whether you agree with them or disagree with them, it doesn't matter. The reality is, it's happened. We're here today. The legislature wants to figure out how to make sure it doesn't happen again. So everybody's working, hopefully, with the right objective.
Well,
Thank you. I actually have a question. I've heard at the table several times, you, Rich, and Mark say that Casella is willing to sit down at the table at any time with the town, and I would like to know how you know that. Where did that information come from?
I think
Jeannie, enough.
No, how do you know that? Why are you avoiding the question?
If you want to
Why
talk to
can't you
somebody
answer my
yourself and ask
question,
them,
Rich?
if they're willing to come to the town, come and sit down with the board,
Did everybody see that?
because it's wild.
Rich, why don't you want to answer the question?
Because I don't have to answer.
Well, if you're going to say that, then you
Enough,
should back it
Jeannie,
up. No, not enough. If you're going to say that.
Anybody answer the question. I don't have to answer.
You have a responsibility.
You have a responsibility.
If you're going to put stuff out like that, Rich, that you're considering, that you want the public to consider as fact, that this is what the landfill wants to happen, then you should have the decency to back it up. I'm just asking.
Give me
how do
permission
you
to
know
go to
that?
them. Give me permission to go to them, and I can prove it. There you go.
Well, if you,
There you go.
you could prove it. So what are you saying, Rich? What are you saying?
Jeannie, enough with the interrogation.
No,
That we can do.
it's a valid question.
It's not a
Excuse me,
valid question.
excuse me, isn't part of the landfill a representative of the landfill here tonight in Fork Road?
Yes.
With crew cut?
I don't think he represents the Casella, but he's part of the landfill, yeah.
Does he represent NCES?
But I didn't say that, I said Casella.
Okay, I'm saying NCES.
Can I just do the last thing?
Yeah, let's put these-
Representative McLeod has worked very hard on it,
Yes.
put a lot of time into it, and I think the only thing we need is to make sure that we're in sync with where the board is, so that's all we need.
The board's position has not changed.
Speaking for who?
Speaking for the board.
We did not
I
vote on
apologize.
it.
I motion,
I make a motion, yeah, I'll second that.
the board,
Actually,
I motion that the board supports, continues to support House Bill 1429, and that we, as we voted last week, we send
We
a
did not
letter
vote
to the,
last
yes, we did, it's in the minutes,
I'll
that we
second
send a letter to the senators and to the Senate affirming our position of supporting House Bill 1429. So, there's a motion on the floor, can we call for the vote, please, Mr. Chairman?
All in
I'll
favor?
second that.
Abstain? Aye. Opposed? Opposed?
Aye.
I have a letter from the previous board, and it would be helpful if there was something,
Previous board is not here.
it would be helpful if there was something that stated what your vote was this evening and what your position, if you just want to
Yes.
restate that position.
We did vote last week to prepare that.
Okay, that's just helpful to take in as a, if you want to call it a majority position or whatever, but it's just helpful to have something that helps to outline what's, I understand some of you have different opinions.
There was something mentioned recently that the chair had some discussion and advised the state or the legislature that we have changed our minds.
We already went through that.
Yeah,
There's a letter that Jeannie's writing, and we're gonna look at it, we're gonna get the wording right, we're gonna send it out. Okay, let's move on, don't beat these points to death.
No,
Thank you for your time.
just on that point, I did try to connect with Mr. Ubaldo, and I would appreciate it if I had a phone number. I tried to call you, and I ended up at the town office because I could not find a phone number. And I ended up talking to Mrs. Ingram.
Okay.
That would be helpful, because then if there are questions about things, I'm going directly to the
Thank
source.
you. Thank you.
Can we address the issue of having Ed stay and go over some things with us in non-public session, some strategy, which would be appropriate in non-public session. I'd like to motion for that.
I'm here.
If you can stay for a little bit, I don't think we have too much more business to do.
I can start, definitely.
Okay, I'd like to motion for that.
I'll second it.
A motion on the floor to have Mr. Booton stay for non-public.
Dupont.
Dupont stay for non-public.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Thank you, Martha. Thank you. Thank you, Ed, for staying. Thank you.
Walk out.
Okay.